my fiancé whispered. "We're not safe," as I discovered a portal opening in our living room. I still can't make sense of it. I don't think I ever will. But there I was, in my own living room, watching as reality itself started to tear apart in front of my eyes. I had always imagined that, when something truly inexplicable happened, something so far beyond the bounds of our understanding, it would come with some kind of warning, some sign. But there was nothing like. No flashing lights, no premonitions, no horror movie build-up. Just a regular Tuesday evening that spiraled out of control in the blink of an eye. It all started with a quiet dinner, just like any other night. The kind where the world seems to slow down for a while and the weight of everything, work, stress, deadlines, feels like it's at arm's length. My fiancé, Nick, and I had just finished eating, and we were sitting on the couch, half watching a TV show we'd seen 100 times. It was supposed to be relaxing, but something in the air felt off. It was subtle at first, just a flicker in the lights, a cold draft that came out of nowhere, but I didn't think much of it. We were about to go to bed. Life was normal. Nick was scrolling through his phone, not paying attention to the show, his thumb moving mechanically over the screen. I was lost in my thoughts, mindlessly watching the TV, when the atmosphere in the room shifted. I couldn't explain it. It was like a weight, a thick layer of air that made it hard to breathe. I sat up straighter, glancing toward the window. The shadows outside seemed darker than they should have been, but it was late and I was probably just tired. And then I heard it. A faint hum, barely audible, like a distant electric current buzzing, growing louder by the second. It was coming from somewhere behind me. "Nick," I said, my voice a little shaky. "Do you hear that?" Nick looked up from his phone, a frown on his face. "Hear what?" "That hum. Like something electrical. Do you hear it?" He stared at me for a moment, then shrugged. "I don't hear anything." I glanced around the room, trying to make sense of the growing tension. The lights flickered. Again, this time brighter and more forceful, and I jumped. Nick noticed the change too, and this time he put his phone down. "What the hell is going on?" he asked, his tone a little more serious. I didn't know how to answer. I just kept staring at the walls, watching as they seemed to warp in. The flickering light. And then it happened. The hum shifted, became something else, something deeper, a vibration that I felt in my bones. I stood up, my heart beginning to race. "Nick, look at this." I turned toward the living room wall, just past the couch, where the air seemed to shimmer. The space where the wall met the ceiling was warping, distorting, like the very fabric of reality was being pulled apart. "What the hell is that?" I whispered, stepping forward, my mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. Nick moved closer to me, and I could see the change in his face. He wasn't just confused anymore, he was scared. His hand was reaching out for mine, his fingers cold and trembling. "Is this some kind of trick?" he asked, his voice tight with disbelief. "No, Nick, this isn't right." I could barely form the words. What was happening? It wasn't possible. I watched as the distortion in the air grew wider, the edges of the wall beginning to split apart, like an invisible tear in the fabric of the universe. The hum was deafening now, vibrating through the floor, making the room feel like it was coming undone. The air smelled different, metallic, almost like something burning. And then, just as I thought I might scream from the terror building inside me, it opened. At first I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but no. There, in the center of the living room, a swirling vortex had appeared. It wasn't like a normal door or window. It wasn't even like a hole in the air. It was alive, moving, twisting and swirling as though something inside it was pulling at the very fabric of our reality. The colors weren't like any colors I'd ever seen before. Deep, glowing purples, oranges and blacks, shifting in and out of focus. The edges of the portal seemed to warp and bend like liquid, and I could feel the heat radiating from like standing too close to an open flame. I felt the blood drain from my face as I backed away slowly, my body shaking with fear. Nick took my hand tightly, his grip almost painful. He was breathing heavily, his face pale and drawn, but we couldn't tear our eyes away from the portal. There was something pulling us in, something magnetic, something we both knew deep down was dangerous. "We're not safe," Nick whispered, his voice shaking as he looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. What is that?" I asked, my throat dry, the words barely leaving my mouth. "I don't know," he said. "But it's real. And it's happening." I had to force myself to look away from the swirling abyss. I had to focus, to breathe, to make sense of this. "We need to call someone. We need help." Nick nodded, but he didn't move. Neither of us did. We just stood there, staring at the portal as the room began to grow even colder, the air growing denser. It felt like everything was watching us, like the walls, the floor, the very house itself was alive, waiting for something. "We can't just stand here," I said, finally breaking the silence. "We have to do something." Nick pulled me closer, his hand still tight around mine. "We don't know what's on the other side of that thing," he said. "We don't know if it's even safe. What if it's not?" I whispered, my voice trembling. I wanted to turn and run, to flee this madness, but the portal felt like it was calling me, pulling at my very soul, begging me to step forward, to see what was on the other side. Suddenly there was a sound. A crack, sharp and jarring, followed by a low rumble that shook the floor beneath us. My heart skipped a beat, and I realized the portal wasn't just open. It was growing. It was expanding, the air around it becoming more distorted, like the walls themselves were being stretched. The light from the portal flickered and pulsed, the colors shifting faster as though it were becoming more unstable. Before I could react, a voice, not Nick's voice, boomed from the center of the swirling chaos. "You cannot stop what has begun." My breath caught in my throat as I felt the words hit me like a physical blow. The voice was deep, vibrating like a growl from the depths of the earth. It was coming from the portal, but it wasn't a voice I recognized. It wasn't even human. Nick jerked back, pulling me with him, his face stricken with horror. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. "I heard it," I said, barely able to form words. The voice spoke again, its tone mocking, almost triumphant. "This is the end of what you know. There is no going back." A chill ran down my spine. Felt it. The danger. The promise of something bigger, something beyond our world, something waiting for us on the other side. And then the portal did something else. The colors inside it began to bleed outward, spilling into the room, the air thickening with a cold, biting wind. The floor beneath us cracked with the force of it, and I felt my heart race as the entire living room seemed to shudder. We were standing at the edge of something terrible, something that would swallow us whole if we let it. "They're coming for you," the voice continued, its tone filled with sinister amusement. "There is no escape." I looked at Nick, my breath shallow, my heart hammering in my chest. His eyes were filled with fear, but also with something else, determination. "We need to leave now," he said, pulling me toward the door. But it was too late. The ground beneath us trembled once again, and I realized with horror that we weren't the only ones here anymore. The portal had opened, and whatever was coming through it was already on its way. The ground beneath my feet rumbled again, more violently this time, and I felt my body jerk as though I were caught in the middle of a storm. I barely had time to react before the lights flickered wildly, plunging the room into darkness. The air grew thick, suffocating, and the weight of it pressed down on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. Nick was beside me, his hand gripping mine tightly, but even his usual calm demeanor was His face was pale, his breath shallow, and I could see the fear in his eyes as he scanned the room. I knew he was trying to stay strong for me, but even he could feel it. The pressure, the presence of something wrong in the room. "It's getting worse," he whispered, his voice strained. I nodded, unable to speak. The swirling vortex in the corner of the room had grown larger. Dark, pulsating colors inside the portal swirled and churned like a storm contained in a bottle. The hum that had started out as a faint sound had now escalated to a deafening roar, vibrating through my body, rattling my bones. It felt like the very fabric of reality was being torn apart, stretched to its limits. And then I heard it again, the voice. "You are not prepared for what is coming," it said, its deep, guttural tone reverberating in the room, shaking the walls. The voice wasn't coming from the portal itself. It seemed to be coming from all around us, like the very air had become alive with some malevolent force. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but I couldn't move. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the portal, from the shifting, twisting darkness that was slowly consuming the room. "You will all be my vessels," the voice continued, its tone mocking and final. "The end has come." I swallowed hard, trying to force the terror from my chest, but it was impossible. The air around us felt wrong, like the walls were closing in. My heart pounded in my ears, and the room itself seemed to tilt slightly, warping like the ground was no longer stable. "Nick," I whispered, my voice cracking. "What do we do?" He didn't answer right away. He was staring at the portal, his eyes wide with fear. He was trying to process the same thing I was. How could we fight something like this? How could we possibly survive when we didn't even understand what was happening? "We need to leave," he finally said, his voice hoarse. "We need to get out of here. Now." But the moment he spoke those words, the room seemed to grow colder, darker. The temperature plummeted so quickly that I could see my breath in front of me, freezing in the air. The floor beneath us groaned, and I felt a sharp, deep crack running through the wood. The shadows in the room thickened, stretching unnaturally long, as if they were reaching for us. I turned toward the door, my heart hammering, my body trembling, but before I could move, something shifted inside the portal. Shape. Figure. It wasn't human. It was tall, too tall, its body thin and elongated, like it had been stretched and twisted in impossible ways. Its face was a mass of shifting shadows, with glowing eyes that pierced through the darkness. As it stepped forward, I could feel the air grow heavier, colder, like the atmosphere itself was being suffocated by its presence. The figure moved silently, gliding toward us with unnerving speed, its eyes never leaving us. And then, just when I thought I couldn't bear the tension any longer, it spoke. "Your time is up," it hissed, its voice coming from all directions, filling the room. "There is no tip. You belong to me now." I tried to speak, to scream, but my voice was gone. My breath was shallow, my chest tight with fear. The figure was closing in on us, its body moving with the grace of something inhuman, its shadow stretching farther with every step. The closer it got, the more the air around us seemed to shift, as though the room was bending to its will. "Nick," I whispered, my voice barely audible, my body trembling uncontrollably. "What do we do?" He didn't answer at first. His eyes were locked on the creature, his hand still clutching mine, his knuckles white with the pressure. And then, just when I thought all hope was lost, Nick did something unexpected. He let go of my hand. I turned to look at him in shock, my heart stuttering in my chest. "Nick," gasped. "What are you doing?" But he didn't speak. Instead, he took a step forward, facing the figure in the portal with a determination that I didn't understand. His eyes were locked on the creature, but there was something else in them now, something old, something that made me wonder if he had known this moment would come. "You don't have to do this," Nick said, his voice shaking but strong. "I'll do whatever it takes to stop you." The creature's glowing eyes flickered with a strange amusement, its lips twisting into what might have been a smile. "You think you can stop me?" it rasped, its voice rising in volume, filling the room with its deep, echoing tones. You are nothing. You are just the last remnants of a dying world. I have already won. I watched in horror as Nick stepped forward, his hands raised slightly as if preparing to fight, to challenge this creature. His words rang in my ears, and for a moment I thought he might actually succeed. Maybe he had some power I didn't know about. Maybe he knew what to do. But the creature wasn't having it. With a sudden movement, it snapped its fingers and the air shifted again. A blast of dark energy shot forward, knocking Nick off his feet and sending him crashing to the floor. I screamed, rushing to his side, but the creature was already there, looming above us. Its form seemed to pulse, its body flickering between the shadows and the swirling colors of the portal. The air was thick with dread, and the overwhelming presence of it made it hard to breathe. It's too late, the creature said, its voice now dripping with contempt. You cannot fight what is already inside of you. I looked at Nick, lying unconscious on the floor, and my heart shattered. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. We couldn't lose him like this. We couldn't just give up. With everything inside me, I stood up, my legs weak, my hands shaking as I stepped toward the portal. There was something inside me now, some burning determination that I couldn't explain. I had to save him. I had to save us all. What do you want? I shouted, my voice shaking but louder now, stronger. Why are you doing this? The creature turned its head toward me, its eyes gleaming with red light. You are the last to understand, it said, its voice quieter now, almost pitying. But in time you will. In time all of you will belong to me. Before I could respond, the shadows around us began to surge, growing larger, more aggressive. I could hear the whispers again, echoing through the walls, swirling around us, urging us to give in. The power of the portal was growing, pushing outward, ready to consume everything in its path. And then, just as I thought we had no way out, something shifted. Something broke. The air seemed to crack with the sudden force of it, the ground beneath us shuddering violently. The shadows around us screamed, twisted, and fled, like they were being pulled back into the portal. The creature, too, faltered. Its glowing eyes flickered as if it were losing control, as if its power was slipping away. I didn't understand what was happening, but I felt the weight of the moment. Something was changing. Something was fighting back. What's happening? I gasped, turning toward the portal, my heart racing. And that's when I saw it. From the swirling darkness, from the chaotic force of the portal, a figure stepped forward. It was tall, human shape, but I could tell it was not like the creature. It was light, pure light, glowing, with a soft, golden aura that contrasted sharply with the dark energy around us. The figure spoke, and its voice was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Calm, strong, full of power. You are not meant to win this battle, the figure said. But you are not alone. And in that moment, as the light surrounded us, I knew we weren't finished yet.